Welcome, everybody. How is everyone doing? I'm Kiersa Brenner, your guide to intuition and conscious communication. And today's show is Liberating Your Body. It is what it is, how to release stuck emotions within the body, and we will be going through an astrological body map to deep dive. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce a very special energy healer and guest, Amy D.
Hi everyone, how are you? How's it going?
Awesome.
Good. So I'm out of El Paso, Texas. I'm the owner of Earth Star Wellness Center, where I do massage therapy and Reiki energy healing as well. So yeah, today I just wanted to give an overview of how that can help for you and your body. And we're going to be going over a couple of signs and how this affects us in ways when we're under a lot of stress.
Fantastic. I cannot wait to hear more. And with Amy's background, thank you so much. I'm so happy to have you on the show. So let's present the astrological body map. And based on where these astrological signs land in your house of your natal chart, you'll have a better understanding on how they will impact you personally. So first, we'll start with Aries and what Aries represents. Aries represents the head, the face, the brain, the eyes, everything that's just up in the head, right? I'm an
Right.
Aries. We could be maybe accused of being a little headstrong. So would love to get your opinion on that.
Yes, so for the Aries, they may experience a lot of headaches, some overthinking, always going into the future. This can also give some anxiety with that. So if I have a client that's coming in with these types of things, then I'm going to go into their head, going into their head, into the back of their head, some relieving some sinus pressure because our inner world is going to affect our outer world. So if we're constantly in a future mode of trying to, control situations, it's going to give us a headache. So these are some of the things that could happen.
That is interesting. That resonates a little bit. When I was taking classes at the Second City in Chicago for improv and comedy, one of the first things they taught us was to take our logical brain, our left side of our brain, and put it in a hammock and let our creative brain flow. Because if you overthink trying to create a scene with a scene partner or to create something to entertain, you will literally just stifle it because you're trying to control the outcome. And I
Exactly.
love that. That
Yes,
that
exactly.
that makes so much sense because there's so many times, and I think we all have Aries in us, right? At some point in our chart, and what it's aspecting astrologically with the current transits just depends. We also like to make sure our ego is in control, right? And so making sure that we can tame that down, tame that tiger down when we see it, I think is absolutely key to coming with that.
Yeah, so a lot of the emotional things that Aries go through, I think that there's the potential of disassociation a little bit because they don't want to talk about it in fully. Like they'll give little bits and pieces of what's going on with them, but not the full thing. So then those emotional wounds are going to be stored in the body, which is going to cause tension to the head and tension to the shoulders.
Interesting. And why do you think that is with Aries, where it just dribs and drabs of information and not the whole full gambit?
Well, I think it goes not just with Aries, but with people. We're afraid of the other's reaction. We're afraid of the overreaction. So sometimes it'll come out as, a little bit rude, or maybe someone will raise their voice because they're trying to express themselves and the other person is not understanding. So um, they don't know what to expect from the other person. And so they'd rather just hold it in.
Wow. Interesting. That is, I mean, it's almost like that little inner child and protecting it with all of your might and will
Yes,
to make sure that it's not exposed.
exactly.
I mean, Aries is the first of the zodiac, the first of spring, so it makes sense. It's the seed that breaks through the surface. But then you have that little seed that needs to be germinated to make sure it continues to grow and grow into Taurus season, etc.
Exactly. Yes.
I love that. I love that. Um, So, as we go through these different astrological signs, I was thinking, what are your thoughts on Geminis?
So,
Geminis,
go ahead. What were you going to say?
because they are ruled by the shoulders and the arms and the hands, but more specifically the nervous system and the respiratory system, which is interesting.
Yes, I think for Geminis, one of my favorite signs, I think that they are sometimes misunderstood. And I think there's when they're stressed out and they're trying to figure out what exactly they're going to proceed with next and they feel stuck, it will get stuck in the lungs.
Hmm.
So then they'll develop respiratory system issues like asthma, even if they do not have asthma, right? So the stress from the lungs is going to cause a contraction inside and they're going to be coughing, not feeling well, not able to fully, it's like they can't take a full deep breath, right? So now they're in a stuck state where they're trying to live the life they think everybody wants them to have versus what their heart truly desires. So that's going to cause, if that happens and we're not in full alignment, this is the part that could affect this sign. So for treatment for that sign, I would probably do a lot of cupping in the back, in between the shoulder blades where the lungs rest, to kind of open that up for them, and some breath work so that they can move through the energy that is blocking them.
I've done a lot of breath work, and that has done a lot. It seems so easy, but it really just transcends you out of your current stuck state.
Yes.
And it's interesting because, Gemini is considered the twins. You have the duality of like the evil twin and the good twin, or whatever you want to call it. But being stuck in that middle space and not being able to make a decision does keep you stuck. Either you can be using more of your intelligence side, emotional intelligence, or on the other end of the spectrum would be, well, I don't want to say spectrum, but other end of the whatever would be, a people pleaser and doing what people want and not fully expressing. And I think what's interesting in a common thread with Aries and the other signs I think we are going to go through, the common thing is finding that middle ground between the yin and the yang, but specifically for Gemini because that's a part of their whole dynamic as a sign.
I agree. I agree completely. So I think what I'm trying to express here is that, when we're feeling tension in our bodies, whatever it is, the body is trying to relay a message to us, and we have that option to connect to it or ignore it. But I assure you that the more that you ignore it, the more it's going to creep up and it's going to feel like pain. And when that pain arises, it causes chaos in your system, causes chaos in your system, in your chakra system, in your muscular system, in your nervous system. Every system that is us is going to be, impacted by the alignment of our thoughts. And this is why these things have to be addressed. And I feel at times they're ignored and then they come back and then they're ignored and then they come back. So it's, where do we find this alignment within ourselves?
Absolutely. And what do you think before it comes into a full-blown pain within the body, that emotional stuckness, what are some of the little things along the way, we all have intuition, and on an intuitive level, I feel that some of the little things could be where you have an inkling to go out and get a breath of fresh air, and you're like, oh, it sounds so simple, but really it does so much. But what are the little things that you see along the way as it starts to compact those energies within the body when it's ignored?
Well, what I see is the want to change, right? The desire to not feel a certain way, but it's the consistency that is behind it.
Mm.
So, for example, I just got back from a trip from Mount Shasta. I went to a retreat. I was with nature. I was with different people, listening to their life stories and sharing stories about ourselves. Anytime it was silent, I could hear the river stream. I did meditation, sound bath, just day after day of those things. And so when I left there, I felt peace. There wasn't anything that could possibly bother me because I was in such a serene state that my energy field was open, my heart was open. And this makes a very big difference when we come back to our regular life. So I think the point in this, in what I'm trying to say here, is that when we experience the calmness, like for example, during a massage, you have that stillness point. There will be a stillness point. There will be points where it hurts or it aches or, oh, what is this and what is that? And then with part of my practice, what I do is at the very end of the massage, I try to relax the entire nervous system so that the body can adjust to no pain, even if it's for 30 seconds, if it's 10 seconds. And that's where I want the client to remember how that feels so that when they get up and they leave from here, they can remember how to do that. The same way when I came back from the retreat, I can remember how to stay in that spot no matter what is going on around me. I have to choose how I'm going to react to those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, when I think about that, I think about the integration of being in that peace. And whether it's in a massage or an intuitive reading, feeling grounded and understanding where your thoughts are coming from, or being out in a retreat or nature, anything like that, knowing how to get back into that space is key. And integration seems like it's could be a tough thing, but it's really not. It's just like you said, getting back into that moment. What is it going to bring you back in that moment? Is it a smell? Is it a song? Is it looking back at a journal entry that you made and you're thinking about how beautiful it was to listen to that river stream while you're meditating? There's so many different ways to tap into that energy. And like you said, it's a choice to do it, making the choice to go back to that space rather than letting the world just all the chaos just take you down the stream to a different direction.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that. You mentioned the heart space, and Leo rules the heart space and the spine and the upper back.
Yes.
It all goes back to that lion-hearted energy representing courage, but also with courage, his pride.
Yes, yes. So I so happen to be a Leo, so
Oh, well,
I can definitely address this in a personal way as well. The Leo is really the ruler of the heart, and with that heart comes a lot of emotion. And I think that when the Leo is stressed out, they express it explosively. Where I think I'll use relationships as the biggest example. They don't know how to take it, and I think it takes a very special person to sit back and say, hey, like, what's going on here, rather than continue the argument, right? So when a Leo gets upset, their blood pressure will raise, which is one of their anyone who gets upset, not just the Leo, but your blood pressure will raise. And then the ability to go back and to say, hey, like what's really going on here is where self-awareness comes in our emotions, right? So we have to be at a really deep emotional state. What I've learned as a Leo is that I can't dwell on what everybody else is thinking or doing, and I have to choose what is really personal towards me and not just everything that this person does. But when a Leo breaks up, they can go into very deep depression if they really love somebody because they don't understand why it didn't work, which I think that goes with, I think that the messages we're sending today resonate with everything in our lives, right? These are specific to this sign, but how do we deal with the stress of a breakup? I mean, do people really teach us that when we're growing up? That's a rare trait for you to learn how to do. So when you feel like your world is falling apart because something happened in a relationship or in the workplace or whatever it is, it's our responsibility to become self-aware so that it doesn't affect the body. The Leo stores a lot of things, but they do let out a lot of things. So the Leo needs to find that balance, I think.
well, I can relate because I'm a Leo rising, so I'm right there with you.
Yes.
And with my Aries sun, my son being an Aries, the sign of Aries, like where is that? Where I feel like you describe both Leo and Aries, right? With
Yes.
that hot-headed, but that expressive emotion and just wondering why it doesn't work, especially with Leos. I mean, Leos are really passionate and they radiate this warmth to others and they don't understand why they don't get it back. But I do think that with in relationships and relationships, whether it's platonic, work, romantic, I think what it comes down to is that sometimes the Leo light can be so overwhelming because it is so heartfelt and pure love that a lot of people aren't ready for it.
I can definitely agree with that. I think people I always when I read about astrology and Leos and they say, oh, they like to be the center of attention. And I can't say that I do. There's times where I get a little bit shy and all the things, but I've met other Leos that it's just because there's a level of confidence that's a little bit different because the heart is open. Now, when the Leo's heart closes during stressful situations, they're going to experience a lot of shoulder pain, a lot of neck pain, literally chest pain. Happens in the body. So this is going back into the recentering and controlling the emotion, the big emotional outbursts that could potentially hurt other people's feelings, right? So that's part of the center where, you have someone who's quiet like the Gemini who's not saying everything they want to, and then you have the Leo who says too much sometimes,
Right.
and then you have the Aries who's on the fence of where they want to adjust their lives. And this could all cause a lot of stress in the body.
Absolutely. And coming from like an intuitive hit when it comes to Leo, it's always like getting out of that mental space and dropping back into the heart space, which is I mean, it's taught in meditation and yoga and everything, dropping into your heart space, getting back into that heart, that pureness.
Yes.
And then that's when you can see what's really going on around you. It's interesting because I know a lot of people are going to watch this video and say, well, I'm a very talkative Gemini or I'm a very shy Leo. Of course, we have 9 different planets plus asteroids in our astrological chart. And for you, I know your rising sign, and that makes sense why you might go back into that space of privacy, which is
Yes.
traditionally Scorpio, if you
Yes.
forgive me saying that. And that's, I'm surrounded by Scorpio risings. I told you earlier when we were talking that I have like 5 or 6 Scorpio risings including my mom, my brother, it's like it's something that, but in my fourth house, I have Scorpio. This is just kind of a segue, which is a house of home and
Yes.
heart, which I think that's why I resonate so much with Scorpio risings because I understand that depth. But anyway, segue, more to come on that.
Yes.
But like we sit here and we talk about the heart space, the back, and we go further down into the body and the digestive system. So we have Virgo, which is ruled by intestines, digestive, and the spleen. And it's interesting, it symbolizes, purification and analysis. So I'd love to get your take on that.
Yeah, so I think the Virgo can get a little bit meticulous on every single thing, which is going to cause a stomach ache. This is the control factor of everything not happening in a certain way, can be very upsetting for the Virgo. So they can run into digestive issues like, irritable bowel syndrome, reflux, these type of things where their stomach is not performing exactly the way that it should. um, the reason we're calling this show Liberating the Body is because once we can become free of all of these things and sort them out, don't get me wrong, they don't go away. It's how do you sort them out, right?
Mm.
So with the Virgo who's going through a stressful time, school, family, all the things, and they're trying to get everything done at once instead of slowly breaking it down on what they can do and what they can't do in that moment. I think that will help the Virgo to start to stress less than they normally do.
Yeah, when you say that, I'm literally getting a vision of someone taking whole pizza and shoving it in their mouth,
Right.
digest it, and not feel any pain going down the esophagus and down, sitting in your stomach and then going through the digestive system. But if you were to take bite-sized pieces and trust the pizza's still going to be there. The whole pizza's going to be there if you want it, but trusting the process because digestion is a process.
Yes.
And it is very delicate. And, a lot of people don't eat after a certain time at night because they want to make sure they digest properly before they go into rest and sleep mode. And so the same thing. It's interesting to me because Virgos are very meticulous, very I love Virgos. I have some in my chart. Um, Very nitpicky and perfectionist. And I think when it can be overused is the perfectionism, and they can nitpick people apart to the fact that there's nothing left or situations. And I think to help that, um, a little bit of my experience, I was down in Ecuador and I was sitting with the shaman doing an ayahuasca ceremony. I had done San Pedro and a couple ayahuascas, but this is my very first one, and I was very scared. Didn't know how it was going to feel to be, out of control, and where am I going to go? Am I going to be in my body? All of the things that go along. And if anyone has done plant medicine, they know exactly that same feeling. And as I started, I mean, when you go on ayahuasca, you're boom, you're on that train. It's just fast. There's no ease into it. It's just, and so I remember sitting there and, analyzing my life and analyzing where I was, where I haven't been at this certain age that's expected of us, right? And as I go through all the chaos and the music and everything, and it starts to slow down, I was shown all these beautiful colors. And there was this painted flower, and this hand came out of nowhere and picked the flower petal, and the flower petal said, "Perfectionism doesn't exist." And the hand picked it off, and then it just like dissipated all the petals, pink and purple petals into the background. And I was like, whoa.
Wow, that's a deep message.
Yeah. And that was the only overall theme for that entire journey. Ayahuasca is 6 to 8 hours long. So the fact that that was the strongest message made me realize that I've been too hard on myself, and I've overused some of that Virgo energy in my chart to overanalyze myself, but then I internally and then externally overanalyze people too. So I've backtracked and done a lot of work on that, integrated that, and released that. And so, and I didn't have a lot of digestion issues before that, but I will say after that experience 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I've had nothing wrong with my gut at all
Yes.
because I just understand that it's not really compassion of things around me or within myself. It's more of understanding, I guess would be the word. But yeah.
Exactly. That's the same for me as far as the emotional things that go on within. You know what I mean? It's the learning every time that there's an outburst or there's, okay, why am I really upset? And then checking that emotional wound in my body, like a body scan, right? Like, okay, today I had a headache. Yesterday I had this. Like, for example, my sciatic nerve will act up every now and then.
Mm.
And so when I came back from the Mount Shasta retreat, I had no pain in my body, zero pain. It was very beautiful. So I'd say maybe about last week, I kind of felt the sciatic nerve acting up, and I thought, okay, I'm aggravated. I don't feel aggravated, but my body is starting to get aggravated, and I need to sit with that. And I need to see what part of my life is feeling aggravated. And I'm not kidding you. I addressed it. I meditated with it. I breath worked. I just kept being very consistent about what I was feeling in my body without even knowing exactly what was bothering me on the outside world. And I don't have any more pain. So it's just very interesting the way that I've seen people change even in here from coming in with body pains, constant headaches, all the things, and just some recommendations on, hey, try this, try the workout, try the breath work, try to release whatever is bothering you. And then I see them again the following month and they really did it, and they feel their whole body will feel different. So, regardless of what sign you are, the having complete self-awareness within your body, and then, okay, or vice versa, however the awareness is coming in, we are body, light, spirit, right? So
Right.
if we're coming in, okay, my mind is feeling a certain way, where is that affecting my body, instead of just staying in the mind.
Right. That's so powerful and it's so simple. I mean, it's just kind of our innate nature, and just, going through just a few signs, it really just shows, wow, there's a lot of layers to this. This is not just, oh, fluff, right? There's a lot of real things that happen with this, and that can really help your energetic body, your emotional body, your spiritual body, and your physical body.
Yes, and I really think the mind is what causes the stress in the body. I really do. I think our thoughts are just really heavy. They're heavy. Um, and that's why I think during this spiritual movement, the whole, affirmations and all the things have come out. And however we do them, whatever works for us, I think that a practice is so important to have daily, just even if it's just checking in with yourself in the morning. How do I feel right this second when I woke up? And you'll notice the mind just doing its thing. And then that's where okay, none of that matters right now. So that's part of like the present moment with Aries going into the overthinking. How can they enjoy that moment if they're going to overthink? And then now I have a headache.
Right. And I think that being an Aries, I would just chime in and say, as I've evolved, I'm not a child Aries anymore.
I love that.
I'm an adult. And so I've had some experience with myself, and I would say that I have adopted the modality, if I don't have control over it, then if it's out of my control, I can't worry about it. I
Right.
can I can think positive thoughts if I can control it with manifesting positive outcomes or what I'd like to see, or just being happy with how it turns out. That alleviates any kind of groundwork that a headache would pop in. So,
Exactly. Exactly. This is like preventative maintenance, this
yeah,
is like a self-awareness. I think that's what astrology is, what a lot of things is. They're maps. They're like, hey, I kind of have these characteristics. They're potentially this thought process could be causing this. And, I learned that also through I started massage therapy when I was very young, like in my 20s. And there was a commercial that would come on every time I turned on the TV. And it was massage therapy school, massage therapy school. And I'm like, oh, I would turn it off. Go next day, the same commercial, until that commercial would not go away until I actually attended the class. And so I'm like, why am I here? What am I doing? And the minute I started, the classes, it just started bringing the self-awareness to myself. Then I took a very long hiatus in law enforcement where the stress level is very, very high for almost 16 years between correctional work and police work. And now that I've retired for 3 years, I can literally feel my cortisol level when it starts to get high like it used to. But I don't think I would have understood what it felt like to come down had I not gotten out of all the stress that I was under in every way at that time of my life. I don't know if that makes sense.
absolutely. No, I think it's interesting. We're kind of coming up on time, but I do want to chime in with that, because like you have that duality of that Gemini, and as a Scorpio rising, that's in your eighth house. So it's like that duality um, of that extreme stress to not a lot of stress, right? and finding that balance in the house. And that is the house of Scorpio traditionally. So it's very interesting that you went from one end to the other and now you're back like where you're supposed to be. So I
Yes,
think that's
it's been an
fantastic.
interesting ride, let me tell you. And I think that another thing I just want to mention is that, the universe didn't make any mistakes when
Mm-mm.
our bodies were being created. And we are magnificent human beings. Let me tell you, every system, every particle, every cell, every DNA, everything that was created to make us um, has to be appreciated, and you will see your body differently when you can sit with yourself and be comfortable with all of it. Every crevice on your face, every part of your body that you are in comfort with, and allow yourself to have that self-love. That's what builds the confidence in any sign, in any person, because there was no mistakes, and there's always the opportunity for a human revolution when we are going through stress. And that's what all of this journey thus far has showed me, and it just continues to show me, as I continue to work with people in this capacity, and how I worked with people in other capacities. It doesn't matter what role that I'm playing. It all depends on how I'm thinking about it and where my heart is at that time.
That is beautiful. I love that. The balance.
It really, really is. Do you want to cover one more sign?
We actually don't have much time.
Okay.
But what we can do is we can go ahead and do another show and go into some more signs. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of very beneficial information, and I really enjoyed our conversation. I can't wait for the next one. Um, Amy, tell everybody where they can find you, and I'll put all your information in the description box as well.
Sure. I'm on Instagram at Earth Star Wellness Center. Make sure you put the center there. Again, out of El Paso, Texas. There's a phone number, and you can also DM me for appointments, or if you're in the area, I'm more than happy to serve you.
I love that. I love that. And also, I'm always available for intuitive readings and conscious communication coaching. So you know where to find me. And Amy and I will be back and we'll catch you on the next wave. And we really appreciate everyone being here and see you on the next wave.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Bye bye.
Bye.